full swing. The 2024 Fantasy MLR season is rolling after 2 weeks of play. This week, we got a jam-packed episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show to look back at everything that went down in week 2, plus to discuss this week's Fantasy Ruckers Team of the Week honorees. Plus, we have a closer look at guys you need to look out for this waiver wire, plus a look ahead to week 3 of the Fantasy MLR season. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode number 99 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much to our Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of trying to make fantasy rugby a reality in the MLR. Matt Yee, Ryan Yee, Devin, Vandy, Vanderpool, and yes, you heard it right, Maddie. It is episode number 99, one away from 100, and we are full swing here into the 2024 Fantasy MLR season. Week 2 just wrapped up, like we said at the top of the show, the teaser. Full swing ahead here in the Fantasy MLR season. Some here on the show, I think we have a range on the show. Vandy, you're doing pretty well this season so far. Me, not so hot to start off the year, but it's okay. We're trudging on. But boys,
it's all part of your plan.
How we doing here after week 2 of the Fantasy MLR season?
You must be feeling good over there, eh, Vandy?
You know what?
How does it feel to be? How does it feel to be in the top half of the?
You know what?
The standings
usually I try and stay leveled, but you know what?
Yeah?
I'm all this right now. I'm 2-0, baby.
He's 2-0. That's right. Beating Maddie by 0.2 points in week 1.
A win to
win. I was playing my backup lineup.
Going on
to played the starting.
I said I better give this guy a gift or two.
Yeah,
this guy needs it.
I ain't giving it back.
Going on into week 2, taking another victory in a row, making it 2 wins in a row. Maddie, you're 500. So my big question for you, Vandy, is I give you now the merit and the responsibility of asking Matthew how 500 feels, because I know he's been giving you a lot of crap after last season.
You know what? I know what 500 feels like, and it doesn't feel as good as undefeated.
Oh yeah.
No,
hey buddy, you know what matters? You know what matters?
Not
the
losing.
end of the season.
You know what matters?
You know what matters? The end of the season, because you're gonna go on a run here. I can see it. You're gonna go on a nice little run. And plus, Ryan, who the heck gave you authority as third last 0-2 to tell anybody how 500 feels? All right,
it's true.
All right,
it's true. It's been a rude awakening for the creator and the founder and the Supreme Commissioner.
Oh my god!
To start off the Fantasy Ruckers League 0-2, been whooped. Got whooped in the first week by Dankus Anchors. Got whooped in the second week by our newest league member, LaRouge Rugby. So I don't even have an excuse to say that
you do not.
It's a learning curve. But yeah, right off the
LaRouge is balling out too.
His team looks solid. But I didn't know if you guys saw Rugby Morning in our Discord channel. Fitzy was kind enough to release a power ranking after 2 weeks in of our fantasy teams. And Vandy, I believe you're at the top of the rankings there, buddy.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at predicting those last year.
Maddie,
what happened?
Maddie, you are I think 6th, and then I think I'm like second last, just ahead.
He doesn't know what he's talking about this year.
Just ahead of Rugby Wrap.
Who's making this?
Who picked Dan Holland's head right at the first pick? Rugby Morning. Fitzy's
Fitz, man, I love you.
But nonetheless, and hey, outside of the Fantasy Ruckers League, we've had a whole bunch of people trying out Fantasy MLR for the first time. 4 other leagues, they've been having a lot of fun. We've seen the back and forth in the Discord community. The Game Day channel is bumping on Game Day, talking about the games going on. You can tell, and it's a lot of fun watching, because obviously we had this investment last season where you kind of had this emotional attachment to certain players, and you're hoping, like I need that guy to get like 10 more meters, or I need that guy to score try to win my matchup. And we thought we were a little bit crazy last year when we looked at the game like that last year in the 2023 year when we were entering into our test season. And then now to see it in other league managers and see them get as invested in that fantasy sense, it's a cool thing to see. I'm proud of everyone here in the Fantasy Ruckers community.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, Vandy. Oh, no, I'm proud of you.
No, I'm proud of you.
But it's been cool. It's been cool. But hey, we got a busy episode in this one. Like we say every show, we got the week 2 recap that we're going to go over, talk about the matches, talk about the guys who popped off, mention the guys who made our team of the week, the Fantasy Ruckers team of the week in week 2. We got the latest waiver-wire segment for you guys to take note of who you should look out for when waiver-wire does come up this Thursday morning when you got to place your bids Wednesday night. And then, of course, we'll look ahead to week 3 and the matchups that we got going on there. Hey, we've been doing pretty good in our predictions. I got to say, all of us are above 500, so we're making moves there. But hey, like we say at the start of every show, if you aren't already, follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers, Twitter or X, I should say, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe to us. We come out with weekly content every single week, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun as we trudge through the 2024 Fantasy MLR season. I will say, we finally got a lockdown schedule here for the regular season, and we will be releasing the Fantasy Ruckers Show every Tuesday morning. And guess who's back on a regular basis? Devin Vandy Vanderpool is back here on the show every single week now that we got that locked down. So hey, Tuesday mornings coming out. Make sure you get it wherever you get podcasts. Download that, watch it on the YouTube channel, and you're going to be able to see Vandy's pretty face now every single week. I know a lot of you have been missing him. Every week. And hey, our Discord community is also there. You can find that link down below to join the almost 100 people that are talking fantasy MLR, talking MLR. It's pretty cool. And hey, let's get the subscribers on the YouTube channel up to 100. I believe we're around 80 at this point. Let's get that up there. Let's share and let's try to get this fantasy MLR thing growing as we, like we say at the top of the show, try to make it a reality here in Major League Rugby. But all right, let's get into it, right into it, guys. News and notes to start off the episode. Pretty quiet across the league. I mean, makes sense. We had a whole bunch of roster moves in the offseason to talk about now that teams are kind of in full swing here after 2 weeks of play. Not as many moves that we're seeing, but anything that you guys have that you've seen across the league that you guys want to talk about?
Well, I guess one thing, LaRue Milan apparently is going to be back by week 4. So if you're a LaRue Milan owner, that was out of his own mouth. If you're a LaRue Milan owner, expect that and be hopeful for that. But that's all I got here.
Yeah, pretty quiet. The only other thing that I wanted to mention was the New England Free Jacks released their St. Patrick's Day jerseys. And
Vandy, have you seen these suckers?
They look pretty good.
These things.
Vandy, look at on the screen here. Look at our boy Q looking good on the Twitter post. The New England Free Jack jersey going all in there for their Irish heritage kit for their St. Patrick's Day weekend matchup. It looks pretty sexy.
Solid. That's a hell of a mullet, man.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused. Is Chicago our Irish team or the New England Free Jacks our Irish team?
I don't know.
They got to figure it out. I hope Chicago kind of steps up the game and says, hey, we're going big for these St. Patrick's. But it seems like New England Free Jacks got that beat.
Yeah, I love the font. I love the color. Yeah, Q, friend of the show, is looking pretty good in that Free Jacks St. Patrick's Day themed jersey. But yeah, other than that, really no other crazy news. LaRue Milan might come back as a LaRue Milan owner. I'm pretty hyped up about it. I'm struggling at the center position right now with Billy Meeks all of a sudden wanting to play fly half. So hopefully LaRue Milan can fill that gap. But again, we'll see when the weeks come as we get closer to week 4 to see that. But hey, let's keep the show moving here. We got to get it to a recap, but before we get to that, to go over everything that happened in week 2, it's time for Commissioner Yee's league. Hear ye, hear ye. Here is Supreme Commissioner Yee's Fantasy Ruckers League update. I don't know what's the merit in terms of when I lose that title if I keep on losing here in Fantasy MLR.
I think you've already lost it.
Is that so?
No, I think you've already lost it. I think you shouldn't have gotten it to begin with.
Well, yeah, you know what? Mistakes were made, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, hey, what can I say? The people have spoken, and they gave me the title, and I got to do my responsibilities here.
We'll say, Ryan, weekly challenge.
Weekly challenge, doing pretty good, I gotta say. And we'll start off with that, with the update there. Super excited with everyone who
97.4.
I'm tearing it up. I'm tearing it up. But thank
Only
you.
you drafted that well.
I know. Well, thank you to all of the community members out there that have been partaking in the Fantasy Ruckers Weekly Challenge. We want to continue to grow this thing. We're up to 22 participants, both people who are in fantasy leagues already and people who wanted to get a little bit of a taste here of fantasy MLR. Maybe didn't want to get the full brunt of it yet. Just dip their toes here. Weekly Challenge is a good way to do that. If you want to sign up, still an opportunity to do so. Go check out our social pages. The link is in our bio. There's also a link in the description down below on the podcast and the YouTube video as well to join there. Sign up on our website and you'll be able to play along here and compete with us and the rest of the Fantasy Ruckers community in this weekly challenge. But I got to say, yeah, after 2 weeks of play, 97.4 points, 57.4 this past week with a lineup of Dylan Fawcett, Manuel Ardeo, Reese McDonald, JP Duplessis, and Dougie Fife. What can I say? I might be not doing it on a weekly basis, but I'm doing pretty good. Matt, 45.5 in your weekly challenge, and and Vandy, you're in there with a solid 43.3 points. That's not too bad.
Yeah, you're right in the middle. That's called 500, pal.
But nonetheless, the weekly challenge again is a really fun way to get into a little taste of fantasy MLR. The rules are posted in our Discord and on our social channels. Pick 5 guys, stay under a $15 salary based on their 2024 rankings, and you see how you fare against the people participating in fantasy MLR. Well, you're 2 weeks into it, guys. How have you been enjoying the our fantasy MLR weekly challenge here? A little bit different than your weekly lineup setting when it comes to the season-long competition that we find ourselves in. I like the weekly challenge. It's a nice little breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I feel like it's a way for me to be able to experience having players that I didn't get a draft.
It's true. Guys that you wanted, but
guys who I wanted that got taken. Guys that I wanted that Vandy took. Guys that Vandy wished that he had that he doesn't have. I hope you're picking Andrew Cohen this weekly challenge. Thank Vandy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You missed that. Co has got back-to-back weeks in tries.
No.
2 tries in week. Yes.
Didn't his try get called off?
Oh, that is true.
That is true.
Called off because he's cheating.
You're right.
To be fair, I did make a mistake there. I will admit.
To be fair.
Taking a 15 at McAnee and taking a 15 at Teo. Mistakes were made.
Yeah, it's okay. But nonetheless, join the weekly challenge. It's a whole lot of fun. We love to see that continue to grow and see where you stack up against the fantasy MLR community on a week-to-week basis. Just an announcement for our league members across our Fantasy Ruckers leagues. Continuing to smooth out the weeks. The website, again, looking baller. Alistair Kirschpool working his tail off to get the website smoothly running. It's been great 2 weeks in. Couldn't have asked for anything better, and it's going to continue to get better each week in and week out. I will say that you continue to use the technical channel in our Discord to note anything that you guys are seeing that needs to be improved, that needs to be updated. I do see a lot of people in our Discord kind of having ideas about different kind of league format type stuff. We love to hear the feedback about kind of improving the fantasy MLR experience. We are definitely outside of some of the technical things. We're going to kind of reassess at the end of the 2024 year to see what rules need to be changed, what scoring formats need to be changed, roster size, things like that after the 2024 year to see how we can implement that moving forward. And then just the last thing to wrap up here with the Fantasy Ruckers League update is let's get some of these trades going. I will say, and I'm not going to name any names, I'm in a little bit of some trade talks here right now to try to improve the team starting 0-2. I want to improve the squad. Who the heck would
want to trade with you with your sorry squad?
LaRouche. I'll trade you Mikey Teo for Andrew Cohen.
But nonetheless, hey, that is trading is a possibility. And there is no kind of system in our website right now, but the way that I want to remind league managers of how they can approach that, have a discussion with some of your league members, use Discord as an outlet there, and then just approach your commissioner about the deal that you got done, and they can get the respecting roster moves done if he makes sure that's approved on both sides. But yeah, there's some trade talks going on here on my side of the league.
Yeah, what are you trading for future considera's?
No,
can we do that too?
That's not going
to add that in.
Salary cap considerations.
Yeah, no, we're operated a
I'll
little
trade
bit
you
more.
an international spot, salary cap considerations.
Yeah, there we go.
And Mikey Teo for Andrew Cohen. Let's go. Ridiculous.
That sounds like a pretty dang good deal.
Yeah, by the MLR standards.
Again, we'll keep up to date with all of our latest league happenings in our Discord. Again, description down below. All right, let's get into our week 1 breakdown. Had another jam-packed week 2 of MLR, which means a jam-packed weekend of fantasy MLR. All 12 teams in play here, and we opened up the weekend with, I think, probably the most exciting match of the entire week 2, and that is the New England Free Jacks taking on Old Glory DC.
What a game!
All of us.
What a game!
Had New England slotted to win this.
Sure did.
I should have took OG DC. I felt it.
You did not feel a thing.
I felt it last week, dude. I'm telling you.
Okay, you've felt it as much as your hair growing.
They showed us up here in Old Glory DC winning on
almost the head, buddy.
They showed us up and they won on the last kick of the game, winning this one in a tight one here between the New England Free Jacks and Old Glory DC here
and who happened to kick that?
It was Jason Robertson and Vandy. I know you're happy to see that. I'm sure when that lineup came out and you saw Jason Robertson at that fly half position.
Oh, buddy, I messaged you guys right away. I'm like, we're not losing eligibility to baby.
35 to 34. Old Glory DC takes it away. Matt, overall thoughts on this this tight matchup? That was a shocking result to say the least. I know Fitzy, the in-house Old Glory DC fan, Alistair Kirschpler.
No. Fake fan. Fitzy's a fake fan. He chose New England Free Jacks to win. Let's just put this on the record here. He did not support his team.
I think Utah's
so let's just put that on the record here. But that is true. You are a fan. And you're a true fan.
Also pumped about the win as well. He's an in-house Old Glory DC. But overall thought.
I mean, look, I think New England Free Jacks were uncharacteristically sloppy. Just very sloppy. I mean, set piece was sloppy. They just defense wasn't great, and that's something that we really expect from them most of the time.
Got a yellow card.
They got a yellow card. I think a lot of their scores, even though they scored 34 points, I think a lot of their scores are off of kind of messy play or kind of first phase, kind of a strike move off of set piece, which is, I mean, great, but like the way that Old Glory DC did it was they were building offense, right? Their set piece looked good. They really didn't make that many mistakes. But I mean, for one guy for me was like Vaca or Vasa. I mean, Vaca. He was clinical in that set piece.
Oh my god!
Because he was so smart at the back of those mauls, and he just knew exactly when to attack. And he helped that Old Glory DC team.
And Matt, Vandy, you have Vaca on your fantasy squad. You're pretty happy. A big part of your win this past week here.
I shot him. Attack!
our first team of the week, Fantasy Ruckers Team of the Week, honoree, I should say, for week 2. Martin Vaca getting that front row Team of the Week here. I think there's a little more merit to the Fantasy Ruckers Team of the Week than there is the MLR first 50.
I think so too.
I think so.
You should start giving out little cups or something. But before we get into the fantasy stuff, Ryan, just one last thing is that I thought Old Glory DC might have just put out a plan to other teams of, hey, this is how you beat this defense, because Old Glory DC was attacking these inside channels. Like the centers were attacking hard and being able to make line breaks within the blitz, because New England Free Jacks, we know blitz is on the outside. They were able to break the line in the blitz and broke apart that defense and kind of really helped them out, which I thought was just great.
When you lose in all aspects of the set piece, you lost in line out scrums, you know,
it was sloppy.
It was
sloppy on New England Free Jacks,
which usually is pretty money on the set piece.
Yeah, exactly.
True. But I will say, and I think this is for all the matches that we'll get into, that everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt. We're still early in the season.
Oh, for sure.
The teams that we see even in 2023 appear in like weeks 14, 15, 16 as we get close to the playoffs is completely different, because I know last year the New England Free Jacks started off a little bit slow and they went on a crazy tear towards the end. So again, a grain of salt, but
I think a lot of that has to do with the guy that you have in LaRue Milan.
It's true.
When he came back last week after 6-7 weeks, that team turned it around. And I'll tell you right now, if he was on the field, if he was on the pitch, that game probably goes New England.
Well, so let's talk about some individual players here. Again, a team of the week, front row, Fantasy Ruckers honoree, Martin Vaca, 22.8 fantasy points in this one. I mean, just electric. 45 meters gained, 11 tackles, 3 tries from a front row position. I mean, you're not losing many weeks when you have a guy that is producing that much at your front row position, that let alone can only get around 4 or 5 points. 22.8 is pretty insane. The other second team of the week honoree, for this week. Center position was kind of a little bit lackluster here this past week.
Yep.
But Ben Lesage, 16.3 points for the New England Free Jacks, adding a try there. Coming off of the 2 tries before that. I think this just cements the fact, Maddie, that I know at the start of the season when Leroux Milan, because obviously Leroux Milan is going right back into the starting lineup once he returns and is healthy. It does seem like it's going to be a Leroux Milan Ben Lesage pairing rather than a Leroux Milan Vanderbank.
That's I think expected. Just that's where they got success last year. I will add on Rye, a couple other guys. Reese McDonald is going to end the year as back 3 number 1. I can promise you that. And Fernanda Schultz might have not shown as much on the fantasy board, but he was all over the pitch. And that's a guy you want in your team.
Reese McDonald, 17.8 fantasy points. Again, an intercept there. You might say that's a little bit lucky, right place, right time. But I mean, 4 tries to start off the year. Electric, 17.8 fantasy points, and add a try assist in there as well. Matt, you add Jamison Fernanda Schultz, 12.2 points. Comes back from a bounce back game for OGDC, starting with that.
He was everywhere.
Big meters.
He was moving. 85 meters gain for him. And then you got to mention last before we move on, Jason Robertson. I mean, 16.6 fantasy points. He's 5 conversion kicks. He has 38 meters gain and a try in there. I mean, you're quite happy, Vandy, as a Jason Robertson owner, to see him at that fly half position and producing that much, which is electric.
I just want to shout out, nice hair pull by Mitch Wilson. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Him and Graydon Bowd got into it. He's just pulling the hair.
But yeah, I mean, a great way to start off week 2. What a match. 35-34 again for Old Glory DC. We'll see whether or not New England Free Jacks can right the ship next week and see if Old Glory DC can continue rolling here into week 3. Second match of the week, and it's the one that Maddie and I were on a watch party, our first ever Fantasy Ruckers watch party.
Should have been there.
Yeah.
My son's birthday.
Hey, you would have made it a lot better, bud.
You would have made it a lot better because out of all the matches to choose to do our very first ever watch party, this one was probably the toughest one to do. The Utah Warriors coming out with the victory 29-15, but man, it was a sloppy one and it was slow, not very entertaining, not really much going on. I guess before I'll say it right off I'll say it right off the get-go. I mean, there's no team of the week honorees in this one. There was nothing special about this matchup.
No doubt there. I mean, look, I'm not going to say too much just because we already talked for 2 hours trying to get through that game. But it was pretty messy. It was pretty messy. I mean, Utah scored off big plays. It wasn't a lot of kind of that beautiful rugby that you like to see. They looked better at the end of the game, I thought. They were starting to build phases, starting to figure that out.
Hamilton was really starting to come alive as the game went on.
For sure. And but I think the big takeaway for me out of this one and what I saw with Chicago is just we have seen this experiment of Billy Meeks at 10 is no longer working. And this game was the epitome of that because their backline looks awful. Like they never get the ball wide, and you see that in Nate Oxberger's stats, right? Yes, Julian Dominguez scored a try, but what else did he do, right? Like, they don't get the ball out wide. It gets stuck with Bryce Campbell, gets stuck with Billy Meeks, it gets stuck with Mark O'Keefe, and the ball never goes anywhere, and you're not going to win games like that. So they got to figure it out. I mean, to be fair, when Luke Hardy came on, it's not like it looked amazingly that much better, but this experiment that they're doing, it's not working. They need to move on.
It's a tough one, and I think as a Billy Meeks owner who drafted him with my 5th overall pick here in this 2024 season, I am just praying. I think it could work 2 ways, right? If he starts one more, I'm praying for the move back to center because I want to see the Billy Meeks of old when he won Player of the Year a couple of years ago when he was on the Giltinis. But it would be funny if he played fly half for one more week. He got the fly half eligibility, and then he moved right back to center the week after, and I can play him at my fly half spot for a couple weeks. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Just a tough one. And again, with a lackluster game like that, it reflected in the fantasy points that are being told. I mean,
even like for sure scores, like even Joel Hodgson, missing kicks, like it was just
too.
Wild game.
And I guess it leaves you wondering, like, what could have been. I mean, Joel Hodgson still 15.4 fantasy points on the day, right? That he's doing Joel Hodgson things. 38 meters against 7 tackles, 3.
I mean, we're missing some talent. with our injuries. No Joe
Yeah.
Mono, obviously.
Yeah.
No Cruz.
But it was a surprising lineup, to be fair, Vanny. Like, your centers was Tomasi Tonga. I mean, he's injured now, so he won't be playing. But, like, the fact that Spencer Jones wasn't in there, that was interesting.
Yep.
Mika Cruze was out. Like, we're not sure what's happening with them. So it was kind of and do you know what? It's got to feel good to be able to get the win despite having that type of lineup.
Well, yeah, Cruze's out, Mono's out, Jones out, Tonga out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about if they're in. Jones and Cruze are injured, but they weren't in the lineup. That's
no,
for sure.
they weren't.
Yeah. Well, so again, not really any special players to pull from this one.
I mean,
I think there's optimism from the Utah standpoint of things.
Yeah.
I'm not worried if I'm a Joel Hodgson owner.
No, not by any means.
I think they're gonna
and Caleb McEnany.
No,
he hasn't been getting going yet. He hasn't been breaking.
We were talking about on the stream. We were saying, hey, like, when are we gonna see him kind of?
And I was really hoping
gain that you expect.
Yeah, I was really hoping he'd step it up with these injuries, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me call before we move on to the next thing. Couple things. Paulo Sike,
dog.
We're gonna
get to
the San Diego. Yeah, we're gonna get to San Diego again. But these old cats in the center position, they're showing people up. They're showing people up.
Dog.
I would be worried, Ryan, if I'm a Nate Augsburger owner in fantasy. I'm worried.
Well,
I am worried for
fair.
the start of this season.
I was just gonna say. I mean, I think I'm worried.
Well, he's not the same guy that was on the Legion last year.
Yeah,
I think he's the same guy. I think the team that he's on, they're not doing him any justice.
What I was gonna say was that I think optimism from the Utah Warriors standpoint, but if I have any stakes and any shares of the Chicago team, I'm sweating a little bit. I know it's really early on, and I said at the top of the recap that give it time, but they got to figure something out. And it feels like, and I think where a lot of the sentiment comes from is that we experienced this. The hype was there in 2023, and we thought that Chicago was going to be on another level. And it just feels like there was the same hype going into this year. And Matt, we had talked about it off the air before about how, am I really buying into this team again? Am I going to fall for it again?
Yeah.
And right now it feels like I'm falling for it again.
They just
the
lack an
difference.
identity. Like, it doesn't seem.
I agree.
Like, it's not a cohesive unit. Like, it just doesn't seem that they found the guy to get the ball, into their hands. A musket going guy.
Let me say this though. Well, I'm going to move on to the other game, but they got the pieces.
They got the pieces.
You just got to figure it out.
Yep.
Which
is doable. Long season.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Still a long way to go.
Well, yeah.
Anyways.
Utah coming on top there, 29-15. Moving on to the next matchup of the Saturday. This was the one that we were going to try to get as many players as we possibly could to get in, but it ended up there were fantasy relevant guys on both sides, and that is NOLA Gold hosting Anthem Rugby Carolina. NOLA, as expected, coming out on top here, 34-19, but Anthem has some guys on there that did show up, and there was a special player that Matt you had as a pickup last week at the 9 position that you thought was going to start, and he did pretty good this one. But before we kind of get into any individual performances, overall thoughts of NOLA and Anthem.
Yeah, I mean, I think there wasn't a surprise that NOLA dominated, especially in that first half. Like they were just playing in the Anthem's half basically the entire first half. I think, honestly, the one thing that I'd talk about is that NOLA let up. They made mistakes in that second half that they shouldn't have. And they had, and once they got to the second half, their lineout started getting messy. Their set piece got messy. And once that happens, they were just kind of breaking down. And that's why we saw 2 tries, I think, in the second half or 1. And they got beat in the second half. They got beat in the second half by the Anthem because the Anthem put up points.
Yeah,
we didn't expect them to put up points.
24 in the first half. It doesn't matter what you do in the second half.
Yeah. But I mean, look, that's encouraging. I think they look better. I think the Anthem looked better than last year. I think they have to just figure out how they can build phase play. They score off some pretty opportunistic tries like the quick tap from Sayosi Nai, but I think they just got to build phases, stop kicking the ball away. Start building phases, get some confidence in that offense. You're going to have a tough time winning anyways. Might as well lose with the ball in hand.
Yeah.
Make mistakes. You're a new team. You're a young team.
And you're allowed to make mistakes. So you're allowed to be a risk taker,
Exactly.
And obviously with all the points that were scored in this one, I have several Fantasy Ruckers Team of the Week honorees in this one. Best back three player of the week, Dougie Fife, was my start of the week. 20.8 fantasy points in this performance here. 135 meters gain, add a try on top of that, playing the full 80 minutes with 6 tackles to add on top. Dougie Fife. I mean, I am looking and hunting to put my back three players in if they're taking on the Anthem. Like I am looking to put those guys in, and that's why Dougie Fife was my start of the week in there. Just kind of the most notable name in that NOLA Gold. I know we had some guys making an appearance there. JP Duplessis coming in, but who's
I was hoping Philemone got some points, but
Dougie Fife there. What a week by him.
Yeah, great week. And I would say that speaking of the back three, once Ed Fido's back, they are one Ed Fido away from being an absolute wagon in this league.
Yeah.
And as an Ed Fido owner and a guy that has started his fantasy MLR season 0-2, I cannot wait for that day to come back in for Ed Fido.
Buddy, would you get LaRue and Fido?
It's going to be a completely new move, right? All right. Team of the week honoree for the back row position, Jonah Moe of the NOLA back row player, 18.9 fantasy points. Matt, this is a guy that you scooped off the waiver wire.
I told you guys. I said this last week. If he wasn't picked up, you pick this man up because the way that he plays is an absolute. He just does not stop moving his feet, and he will be at every breakdown and stick his head in every breakdown and try to get those steals. I mean, what an absolute beast. Like 13 tackles, 100 meters gain, and a try from a back row. Yeah, you're going to love that from him.
Oh, yeah.
18.9 fantasy points in there. And then, hey, got to show Anthem some love here. They have a Team of the Week honoree for the first time. COC Nye, the guy that you said, Matt, that you should pick up and look for on your waiver wires if you're in need of a scrum half, and he showed up. I mean, getting his first start of the year, 16.6 fantasy points, the best scrum half performance of the week. 50 meters gained, a try with that quick tap, 7 tackles, 2 try assists as well. COC Nye. I mean, I'm not going to expect this from him every single week, but hey, he showed up if you try to stream him for your scrum half position.
He's a starting scrum half moving forward for the Anthem. And if you need a scrum half, he's going to be playing. I told you guys this last week. I'm not going to say I'm a fortune teller, but I'm a fortune teller. So, like, it is what it is. I called this one, and I knew he was going to go off.
Quick question before we move on to the next game here. If you are a Nick McCarthy owner of the Chicago Hounds, and you're sweating a little bit and not too optimistic about how the Chicago Hounds are going to play, do you run to the waiver wire and start COC Nye over Nick McCarthy? And I'm not asking this because I have Nick McCarthy on my team.
Well, I mean, back-to-back bad performances. What did he put up this week? Because he only put up 1 last week.
0.6 this week.
0.6. We're just looking at it now. 50 minutes, 6 meters.
I'm not dropping Nick McCarthy.
No, but I'm benching him.
But here's the issue. Jason Higgins has come on in the 20-minute mark every week.
Yep.
So he's getting 60 minutes. I don't even know who the backup 9 is for the Anthem. If it's Chase Sushinovich, I think COC Nye is going to get at least 70 minutes every week. So, I'm a COC Nye fan. I think at the 9 position, you're not going to get a lot of points. Yeah. Anyways, might as well take the guy who has that offensive upside that Nick McCarthy is yet to show this season.
Yeah. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the year that we would have been saying that we'd be choosing the starting scrum half for the Anthem?
Hey, don't discount those Tongans, baby.
Even their 10's been playing good.
Well, that's what I was just going to say to wrap it up. The last thing I want to say, if Oscar Collar, he was my waiver wire pickup last week. If he's still on your waiver wires heading into this week and you need a kicker, Oscar Collar is a fine start for you moving forward here. I mean, back-to-back double-digit points, 2 conversion kicks, 67 meters gain, 11 tackles, a breakdown steal, 14.5 points in week 2, 13 in week 1. He's a guy that should.
I'll be honest.
And if Anthem gets it going here,
yeah.
I mean, they're not going to get it going, but they clearly have shown that they can score.
All right, let's move on to the first matchup, or the last matchup, I should say, of the Saturday. The Seattle Seawolves taking care of business at home against the Miami Sharks.
Games are tough.
Yeah, 10 o'clock games are tough.
Yes, they are.
29-18, Seattle comes out on top. Surprisingly, no Team of the Week honorees in this one. But Maddie, overall thoughts about the first ever Fish Bowl, I believe is what they're calling it.
The Fish
Yeah,
Bowl.
so just an FYI for people who maybe didn't get to watch the game, Lopetti was a late scratch. JP Smith got moved to 15, which is great if you have JP Smith on your team.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reese starting at 9. Devin Rousseau got moved to 13. Holy crap, that back line that Seattle has is lethal.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
Dan Creel and Devin Rousseau, those guys are big lads, and they looked good. And Devin, look, I definitely underrated him at the start of the year. This guy's a must start on the field for the Seattle Seawolves. Yeah, I was gonna say Seahawks there.
Yeah, you
but
were.
Seawolves, and he's definitely a must start in fantasy as well. I think the big thing for me is that like Miami their offense looks messy. On defense, they are just a team that loves to take penalties. Like they have so many discipline issues that if you're gonna have these guys, like Manuel Ardejo is a guy who does great fantasy wise and does a lot of things on the field, but you're so worried that he's going to get a yellow card that they get a yellow card every game.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep happening because they have no sense of trying to fix their discipline issues. It's not like it improved throughout the game, and it hasn't improved from last game. So, that's not a good combo.
And in that yellow card, would they let up 2 penalty kicks and a try?
Yeah. I think they're a new team that's trying to figure out how they're going to gel together. And unfortunately, like also it's not ideal the fact that a lot of their players are South American and maybe English second language, and the ref trying to talk to these guys. It's not always the clearest communication, you know. Like Kubeli's in there being a 9 and a translator.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, some, again, like I said, no team in the week honorees in this one. But if it wasn't for Dougie Fife and having his electric match that he had against the Anthem for the NOLA Gold, I mean, Jade Styling would be right up there. 17.6 fantasy points for the Seawolves against the Sharks. 92 meters gained, a try, 3 tackles, a breakdown steal. I mean, who is this guy? I mean, going into this, no one was talking about Jade Styling heading into this back three. We were talking about, Aina Futi. We're talking about Tony Pulu. And then all of a sudden, Tony Pulu, and again, I'm the guy that dropped 33 fab bucks on Tony Pulu heading into week 1. And he freaking gets benched the second week in after the show that we said that Tony Pulu is going to start a majority of the matches. And of course, coming into week 2, isn't even on the roster there.
Yeah, story of MLR lineup so far.
Yes,
I mean, but Jade Styling, though, man, we're going to talk about him more in the waiver wire segment. But I mean, if he's on this offense, like you just said, Matt, he's going to reap the rewards from the Seattle Seawolves.
And if there was a stat for stiff arms, this guy would have gotten 100 points because he stiff armed the crap out of I forget who. But
that's
it was a
on
right
that
there.
big try run.
It was a right there. Don't argue. And that guy could not argue, you know?
I think it was their 10. He went down like
and I mean that Superman dive was sick.
Yeah,
loved it, and that fact alone, I want to be picking up this guy. But hey, again, Jade Styling did big things. Thomas Caceres from the Miami Sharks side of things, down week in the week 1. Again, not really expecting much from a second row player, but hey, 15.1 fantasy points for a second rower. Thomas Caceres putting that up there. And then again, Mac Mason. The way that they're kicking it, he might be one of the best. Like he's going to finish off as a top guy. Now that the questions between whether it's Mac Mason or Sam Windsor are out the window, we know it's Mac Mason.
Yep.
I mean, another week of 5 or more penalty kicks, like crazy. 13.8 fantasy points.
8 tackles too.
8 tackles. You're not going to get him for his offensive lethality. I mean, only 9 meters gained, but man, when he sets up at the tee, he's almost guaranteed in money from there.
Yeah. And he's a classic distributor. I think he was like, this is what we were seeing out of Joel Hodgson last year, kind of thing, where it's just that classic distributor, but is going to be money off the tee. Mac Mason is him, and I'm an idiot for thinking that Sam Windsor would ever come in and take his spot. But I will say, fantasy-wise, Ryan, Vandy, this Seattle offense, this is the one you want a piece of this year.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about last year, you want a piece of that San Diego offense? No, this year, it's this Seattle offense. You want to get guys a part of this offense.
I just need Dan Creel to really get going here.
I'm going to be kicking myself, I think, at the end of the year.
So am I, Andrew Coe.
Billy Meeks over Dan Creel. That's gonna be the one that
Andrew Coe or Mike Teo over Andrew Coe.
Vandy, let's work out a trade, man. I'll give you Billy Meeks for Daniel.
Not until I get
All right.
Mike Teo or
All
until
right.
I get Andrew Cole. We'll do a
All right,
three-way.
well, we'll do a three-way trade. All right, let's shit on the first matchup on Sunday, 4:00 Eastern time. The Dallas Jackals taking on the Legion at home. Falling just short, though. Getting the defensive bonus point. Yeah, Dallas. 30-23 loss to Legion, but I think in this one, I'm impressed. This is not the same Dallas team that we have been kicking over the past few seasons. Dallas, I think, is very, very MLR relevant, and i.e. very, very fantasy relevant. There are a couple of guys on this team that I'd be down. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's 100%. I mean, Dallas is looking so much better than last year, and I love to see it. This year,
dude, Sam Galla is just a machine.
Oh yeah, man. Sam Galla, Ronan Foley.
Yeah.
But the
captain,
this team
Gomez Vara.
Yeah, this team they're looking good. They did that against a San Diego team. This was their chance to kind of go up against a strong San Diego team. Couple things to point out. They missed touch a couple times.
Yeah. That
can't happen. You can't be making those mistakes. Those are amateur mistakes. Their offense looks really good. They just need to convert in the red zone. They had issues with that. They got down there.
Penalties.
They were there. Yeah, penalties, turnovers. They just need to convert.
100%.
My big takeaway, Vandy, you brought up Sam Galla, beast. You brought up Ronan. I brought up Ronan Foley, absolute beast, breakdown and offensively. You know who I like though? Vaughn Isaacs. They started him at 10. He should be the starting 10. He should be a starting 10. He is perfect for fantasy in the 10 position. He attacks the line.
Yes.
He runs it straight. Every time he got it in the contact, he runs it straight. Oh yeah, and he is money off the tee. Yes. So. I'm a big fan of Vaughn Isaacs, and we'll talk about more later. But I'm a big fan.
I was actually gonna say him too, because man, some of those kicks he had meters
he put bombs on the. He was putting bombs up.
Yeah, man.
Not even like you look at the restart. He was putting bombs in he was putting them inside the 5 meter and allowing his team to still get under the ball.
Dude, wait till this guy starts hitting some 50-22s and stuff.
That is insane. I'm sorry, Martin Elias, but like Vaughn Isaacs is the guy and should be the guy.
Yes, moving forward. I agree.
All right, well, let's talk about some individual players here in addition to Vaughn Isaacs, because another fly half in the next matchup we'll talk about kind of overshadowed that fly half performance. But if it wasn't for that specific player, Vaughn Isaacs would undoubtedly be one of the top fly halves, and he's going to have to wait for his Team of the Week honoree. But a guy who obviously, like we mentioned, that is getting a Fantasy Ruckers Team of the Week honor is Sam Galla. I mean, this is why you drafted him where you drafted him. Yep. You are not getting 18.3 fantasy points from the second row position by really anyone else. 75 meters gained, 16 tackles, a try. He's coming off of a 5.5 point week, which is still solid for the second row position. Sam Galla, I mean, just electric. I mean, the top 3 fantasy performers in this match were Dallas Jackals players. You got Sam Galla, Vaughn Isaacs, and then Geronimo Gomez Vara with 13.5 points.
Captain.
It's just it's impressive. I will mention a couple San Diego guys. Thomas Awake, a guy that I was pretty high on, back-to-back double-digit weeks, 11.9 fantasy points, pretty solid there. And then a guy that we're going to talk more in our waiver-wire segment, but Tupau Fungia for San Diego Legion, back row player, 11.9
also
on this one.
I'll also bring up Hugh Roach. I think Hugh Roach looked really good. Hugh Roach is going to continue to. Yeah, he's got a huge roach, and he played with a huge roach last game.
That's right.
And I mean, I was so excited about Vandy. Got me so excited about Dallas. I forgot about San Diego. Talk about San Diego. But another guy from San Diego, Nanu. I mean, I'll talk about him more in the waiver wire. But again, these old cats are showing up. The San Diego offense is looking a lot better than last week. I was a bit worried for them last week. They're looking a lot better this week. And their D also, I think they've improved defensively. This is going to be a good team to watch and a nice little matchup. I'm excited to look forward to the next time Seattle and San Diego meet.
Was it San Diego that had that tiptoe try where he just caught it just at the end zone?
Oh,
at the back of it.
No,
that was LA. That was
LA.
We'll get into
that
next game.
That's next one. But let's get into it, Vandy. I mean, the last game to wrap up week 2, RFC Los Angeles taking on the Houston SaberCats at home.
The battle of the TMO on this one.
Yeah, and it was the battle of the TMO.
3 called back tries.
I will say, I think
because Dan Summers was reffing.
I think the sentiment I get from this, I am so excited for this Houston SaberCats team.
Oh, they're
know
so good, man.
They're so electric. I think I'm really excited to watch this team for the rest of the year.
Call it right now. They're going to be in the Shield.
Okay.
I'm saying it right now. Steven, you're welcome. They'll be in the Shield.
Maddie, overall thoughts here on this last matchup to wrap up week 2.
Yeah, I mean, Houston, like they are defensively looking very organized. They have the ability to make long breaks. I mean, Davey Kutzer, when you look at him, he was back in form this game, I thought. But the big takeaway for me on Houston's side is once they get into that red zone, they are looking to crash ball, use forwards, use their centers.
Yep.
I don't even know how many times they got out to the wing, but it wasn't much. So when I'm looking at this game from a fantasy side, it's like, if you're going to use your forwards and your centers every time in the red zone, because they were doing that almost exclusively, you're looking at Houston forwards with a little bit higher bit of value. You're looking at Andre Warner, the 9s, with a higher bit of value for those try assists, which I really like. LA, yeah, I think their set piece really just messed them up here. I mean, their set piece was awful. It was pretty bad here. They just make a lot of mistakes. I think they're still in those kind of growing pains of a new team, trying to gel together. And it's tough. Like, I mean, the first 2 games, they really have some tough opponents to go against. And so far. And
to allude to what you were saying, Vandy, I mean, what RFC LA does have for them, at least after this week, is I think they might have one of the tries of the year. I mean, Niles
think so.
Are you kidding?
I think so, man.
Okay, I get it. It wasn't anything fancy, but the ability to get that ball touchdown at the back of the try zone.
As you're being battled, too.
Can I ask you something? If you didn't do a somersault after it, would it have been as cool?
Doesn't matter. It's part of it.
It's all part of the show.
It's all part of the show.
We know that it's going to be one of the tries of the year, I think. But
I think so.
But talking about some fantasy relevant guys, I mean, team of the week, honoree, Davey Kutzer, getting 20 and a half.
Could have been the MLR player of the week, man.
Out of my downness and negativity that is Supreme Commissioner Yee's fantasy MLR team. Davey Kutzer is the one thing that is there that is probably providing me a little bit of positivity and optimism moving forward. I mean, he's looking like he's the guy that is that second round pick and worth that draft capital.
100%.
I mean, in a performance like that, I think I'm quite confident with that.
I mean,
I already dropped AJ Alatimu after week 1.
You don't need to.
Not only just like the conversion of the penalty kicks, but man, his boot like in live play is just insane. The way he sets up these plays, it's just his vision is immaculate, man.
Yeah. And he has that attacking ability to get you those meters gained out of the 10 position, which is rare. And which is great to see. I said this in the chat. I think somebody asked in the Discord, but look, if you're an AJ Alatimu owner, there is no point. There's no point in holding on.
No.
Like, when you look at this Houston offense, you tell me where AJ Alatimu fits.
Barring an injury setback, I completely agree.
I don't see a spot for him. Their centers are made to be guys that attack the line and break the line. AJ Alatimu has never proved in the MLR that he's a guy that's going to do that.
And that's a sentiment that I think is growing in our leagues, is that there's only 5 bench spots, and there's so much roster movement that happens that the need to kind of move off of guys quicker is so much more in the MLR. Like compared to fantasy football, compared to any other fantasy sport, like you just can't have that attachment. Yes, I know you probably drafted this guy and you're top, a little bit. You just got to move off of it. Maybe that's something we consider moving forward, is to maybe expand these bench rosters, but at least in the framework that it is right now, and I know that's been a growing sentiment in our Discord, is that you just got to move on and you just got to play within those 5 bench.
You got to make the tough decisions, people.
If you play a lot of fantasy, the term is bench stash, and you really don't have the room here to have a bench stash.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I mean, again, I think all of us who have played fantasy for a very long time, we all know that you can never have enough bench spots. It always feels like you could use one more bench spot.
There's nothing better. There's nothing better than finding the diamond in the rough. You held on to a guy and it pans out and it's everything you believed in, but it's just not worth it in the MLR.
Nope.
Other guys quickly to go over. Michael Amiris looking pretty good for the back row position. 15.5 fantasy points here.
He is a guy.
Back-to-back weeks where he's gone more than 14, 66 meters gained in this one. A try, 13 tackles, pretty solid in that one. Obviously, Niall Saunders with that big
missed that guy
try there. He had a big performance this one with 13.4 fantasy points. And to mention, Maddie, for your kind of front pack forward sentiment there with the Houston SaberCats attack, Pita Ane Asu is doing well with the Houston SaberCats in his first year. 12.3 fantasy points in this one. 105 meters gained at
on
the
a front row.
Position. That's crazy.
He's the new what's his name? The guy who was on San Diego Legion last year.
Sama Malolo.
He's the new Sama Malolo this year.
And then we got to give a shout out to friend of the show Andrew Coe.
I mean, what
a cheater! He cheated. He's a cheater. Quit cheating.
Great try,
Play by the rules.
Go, great try.
7 meters gained, 7
Play
tackles,
by the rules.
11.8 fantasy points. All right. Well, that is
with the ball in his hands. Cole gets that extra gear, man. He really does.
Play by the dang rules.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Play by the dang rules.
All right. Well, hey, an exciting week 2 to wrap up there with the 27-12 victory for the Houston SaberCats. Lots to learn from. Again, we're going to continue learning more as we trudge on through the fantasy MLR year. But nonetheless, it was an exciting one, and I'm excited to see what week 3 brings. But before we get into a preview of that, hey, we got to talk a little bit waiver wire. And there's some guys to look out for here heading into week 3. Some guys you need to put bids on here if you're looking for certain positions. Again, there's going to be a lot more of these guys that you're going to want to try to jump on here. At least my sentiment, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, to start this season than you're going to find later in the year. There might be some insurance guys that you'll like to see towards the tail end, but right now is where lineups are being solidified. Right now is where lineups and guys are emerging that aren't on people's rosters, and you're going to find some of these guys that are going to be huge league winners for you later in the year. Let's start at the front row position. This one's a tough one. There was no DeWalt Coatsy this week when it comes to the front row here. But for me, I think it is kind of someone you're not going to be impressed with. If you really need a front row, Jake Turnbull. I mean, Carolina, he's a staple of the lineup. He's going to get you a set handful of points. Again, a nice streaming option, a guy you can kind of plug and play, but don't expect any big ceilings things from him.
Yeah, I think he's consistently going to be within that lineup, which is good. It's good to see. I've got a couple different guys. Ali Lopetti.
I was just going to say Lopetti.
Pat O'Toole just went down with an injury last game. That one didn't look good at all. I'm assuming Augusto Bohm is going to come back and start, but Ali Lopetti might still get some good game time there.
I mean, he went from 10 minutes to 65.
Yeah, for sure. And then Ben Strang. Yes, he doesn't put up that many fantasy points, but last week wasn't a good representation. But I think he's an athletic front rower that definitely has the opportunity. Yeah, definitely has the opportunity to be able to put up fantasy points for this team as the team kind of improves throughout the season.
I'm not putting, though, any more than $5 on any of these
guys.
None of these guys are
even that's rich.
Honestly, I don't. Yeah, I don't know if I'd put.
You could literally let it clear waivers
unless you're
and
desperate.
Pick up somebody available.
Yeah, unless you're desperate for a front row.
All right, moving on to the second row position for me. I'm gonna say Justin Basson. I mean, again, you're not really going to get much fantasy value from the second row position. You're not going to find that as the fantasy MLR season trudges on. But back-to-back weeks with 6+ points. The big thing for me is the double-digit tackles. And we've talked about this all season or all to the build-up of the season about how that provides consistency and the reason why he's consistently getting 6 points. 20 tackles in week 1, 13 tackles in week 2. At the second row position, I'm quite happy having 6 points on him. I like Justin Basson, and he's on the Houston SaberCats. Matt, you just mentioned they rely on that forward pack.
Yeah,
they're gonna get a lot of opportunities there, and I think in the second row position, especially, you're looking for that kind of high floor, potentially high ceiling as well, or like middle, like at least reliable floor and a high ceiling, and just getting that opportunity to score tries.
Honestly, with front row, second row for me, it's are they starting and what's their minutes like?
Yeah,
Basson's averaging basically 80 minutes. The tries will come, hopefully. So 6 points, 83 minutes, and a start. That's a good pickup.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the back row position. For me, I like Tupau Afungia. San Diego Legion back row player, 11.9 fantasy points. He's playing the full match. He can bring up the meters gain a little bit, but again, the tackle numbers are giving him that nice baseline here. 7.3 fantasy points in week 1, 11.9 in week 2. He's on a high-powered San Diego offense, a solid team. And I would definitely pick up and look at Tupau Fungi if you're in need of a back row player.
I will say that he was catching a lot of restarts, which was helping out with that meters gain, so might have inflated a bit, but I thought he did look very good. Mm-hmm. He was kind of looking back to where he was in his prime fantasy stats, I think, in some games last year. A guy that I have as well, Ryan, Albert O'Shaughnessy on the
I mentioned
Anthem.
him last week.
Yeah. I think he's another guy you could look at. Getting 15 tackles 2 weeks in a row, that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. Anthem are going to continue to need to make tackles. And if you need kind of that high floor guy, Albert O'Shaughnessy might be a good guy to pick up.
And if you feel like chasing the points, you go Caceres too.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, he got the try, so you might not be expecting it again, but if you like chasing points, there you go.
And what might be interesting with the Caceres pick is he has back-to-back weeks where he started the second row. So you pick him up now. He doesn't look as kind of attractive right now with the back row position. But hey, as soon as he earns that second row eligibility and he's putting up kind of the numbers that he has.
Which he would get after what, next week?
After next week.
Yeah,
so he'd lose his back row, gain second row.
Yeah, which is good, which will be good. But just be mindful, look, that Miami forward pack and cards, they are like two best friends right now.
All right, scrum half position, very slim pickings. We said it last week.
Only one guy.
There's really only one guy. And Matt mentioned it last week. So he's going to mention it again this week for your PSA. You're not finding a scrum half in your leagues, especially in our 10-team Fantasy Ruckers League. They're all scooped up. And you're not going to get, let alone get a scrum half that's going to be fantasy productive. Mm-hmm. This might be your only week to do that. And that is COC9.
Yeah.
He had a good game. You're probably not expecting 16 again. He got the try, 2 assists, but obviously, like you just said, if he's available and he's playing, you almost have to just take a shot if you're hurting at 9.
Yeah, if you're hurting at 9, I mean, you just want a guy when you're looking at the 9 position, almost similar to the front row, second row, Vandy. Like
you want a warm body that plays minutes.
Yeah, you just need a guy that plays minutes, has the opportunity, and he's clearly shown that he's got kind of the attacking sense.
Yep.
That he's not just going to be passing the ball, which is good. I think that bodes well for fantasy-wise. I wouldn't drop too much waiver wire fab on him. He's probably a guy that will make it through the waivers, considering there's not that much movement around the 9 unless you're a really disappointed Nick McCarthy fan.
If I was just shot at 9, I wouldn't mind dropping 10% of my fab.
No, I drop. Yeah, you 100%. 100%.
Just because of
if you're maybe I'm speaking from a position of not being desperate.
Yeah, when you're desperate, if you got to play desperate.
If you really need a 9, I don't think 10% of your fab is really that crazy. Just to go back on some of the other players, just before we move on to the fly position, how much you dropping down on Justin Basson? I'm considering like the front row player. I'm not really dropping anything. If maybe a couple bucks there.
I think there's also other guys out there that you could look at. Like, it's not end of the world if you don't get Basson.
Tupau Fungia, I'm dropping again. Nothing crazy. Maybe $2 or $3 from him. Again, you might see him progress forward, but again, nothing nuts. Matt, for you, Albert O'Shaughnessy, what are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking you drop 1 or 2 fab dollars on him. I don't think it's that much. You're not going to be kicking yourself if you miss out on him.
Yeah. And Thomas Caceres, like you mentioned, Vandy, I think he's one of those guys that you either just put a waiver in, see if you get him at the end,
or just maybe try for free agent.
Scoop him up in free agency. All right, moving up to, we said COC9 up to 10%. I'd be okay with that if you're desperate for a 9. Fly half, moving on. I'm going to mention my first guy. He's the guy that I mentioned last week, and if he's still in your waiver wire, I think you've got to pick him up. Oscar Collar. It's hard to find a guy that's kicking consistently, starting for a team. I know it's the Anthem, but Collar has proved that despite it being the Anthem, he's going to get you points. 14.5 fantasy points in week 2, 13 in week 1. Again, 2 conversion kicks in this one, 11 tackles, 67 meters gain. Oscar Collar is a guy to go. I'd go higher. I could go 15% with Oscar Collar. If you're looking for a kicker,
there are chances that he's starting over the guy that you have starting. Like there are potential, depending who you have in your fly position, you could look at him as a starter. And he might be just a good guy if you have the space, have on your bench in case of bye weeks. That 10 position gets real feisty when bye weeks start to come along.
And speaking of another pickup, he doesn't have fly half eligibility right now, but he's a guy that we spoke about in the Dallas Jackals matchup. And Maddie, I know this is a guy that you want to
spoiling this for me.
You want to scoop it ahead before he gets that eligibility.
Yeah, you're spoiling this for me that he was going to be my back 3 waiver wire pickup.
Isaacs.
I am dropping bank on Von Isaacs. I am dropping bank because he
looked that good.
He looked that good.
He did. 100%.
And fantasy-wise, fantasy relevant that good.
Yeah, 100%.
And then shifting on now, how much you putting down on? I guess we can go. You treat as a back 3, treat as a fly half. But how much you putting down? I mean, 15% on Oscar Collar. How much you put on? What's bank for you, Matt?
I mean, I'm putting down, like, you put $33 for Tony Pulu. I'm potentially putting down something similar, close to that. Like, I would go in. I think I have a really good feeling about this.
And just PSA to all the Fantasy Ruckers League members that are listening, hey, just keep in mind that Matt might be inflating the value here a little bit to see who's going to bite the bullet.
I wouldn't do that.
It's your prerogative to decide whether or not he is speaking the truth.
You just wait till the waiver wire comes around. And
if you're a poker fan, you know what? Fantasy waiver wire is for you.
Yeah, exactly. All right, shifting on to the center position. I think the theme here is old boys. For me, I'll start off with Utah Warriors. Paul Asike.
Yeah,
9.2 fantasy points in this one. 13 tackles, 48 meters gain. Yep. I mean, even if he's not producing for you fantasy-wise, it's just so fun to watch. He was like the one highlight in that Utah Warriors Chicago Hounds match. Just watching him carry the ball and how mean mugging he is.
He had a couple passes behind the back. It's like, ugh.
It's fun to watch and to see. I think the reason why he enters my waiver wire segment this week is because it's really cool to see him get the full 80 minutes. You know, with that old boy mentality, we always thinking that he's gonna get subbed out at that 60-minute mark. He's gonna lose out on those bonuses. But Paul Asike, 80 minutes there. I
think he would have if Tomasi Tonga didn't get injured, but so that kind of helped him out. That's why for me, I think Ma'ananu for me is the waiver wire pickup here at center. I'm watching this and I'm seeing him, I think, more involved in the offense than he has been in the previous year, which is crazy to see the fact that he's over 40. So he's involved offensively. And I think you're going to get a lot of these try scoring opportunities and just like he's going to get the ball on first phase to crash. And that's where you have the chances of getting those meters gained.
Absolutely. All right. How much you dropping down on any of these centers? I would maybe go again. It's nothing.
Honestly,
splashy.
I think both of these guys are going to make it through waiver wire.
Yeah.
But drop $1 or $2 if you really want them. I think that would be kind of about the max I would go.
All right, and back 3 here. Again, I know I kind of spoiled yours, Matt, with the Von Isaacs the pickup there, but again, he's a good guy to look at there. For me though, Jade Styling. I mean, it's a risky pick, but he started back-to-back weeks in a back lineup that is star-studded.
Yeah. There's
got to be a reason why there's this confidence with Jade Styling here moving forward. And then he backs it up with the performance that he had over the weekend. 17.6 fantasy points, 92 meters gained. You add a nice try with a few stiff arms with the Superman dive into that as well. That should be worth a couple fantasy points.
I would just I would be careful. I'd be careful because Foodie is the American eligible back 3 on that team. They need to play him. He needs to be in that lineup where it fits with Tony Pulu. I think ideally they have Tony Pulu and Jade Styling in there, but there must have been a reason why Tony Pulu was left out. And what happened? What does that mean for Jade Styling in the future?
I'm going to be dropping another $30 on Jade Styling here.
Yes, you are.
I have both Jade Styling and Tony.
Let's go.
Just so I can, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, that's his poker face, people.
That's right.
But yeah, so Jade Styling, have a look at that. And then again, Von Isaacs. But hey, watch out for Von Isaacs. He's going to gain that fly half eligibility after week 3. That's a thing to look out for also this week is that we're entering week 3. So guys who have been starting at different positions than what they started off here with fantasy, they're going to lose that this after this coming week. So just keep an eye out for how that might shift and alter. And then I guess bonus point, the last waiver wire. Again, I don't think I'm really dropping any crazy money. In our 10-team league, there's not even actually any worth really necessarily going. But again, Dallas Jackals, if they're still in there, they look improved. I think that kind of stigma that they're not going to be a relevant team, especially in fantasy circles, is disappearing. They only scored 1 fantasy point this past week, but they're coming off of a week where they had 3 try assists the week before.
Still better than the Seawolves.
Still better than the Seawolves, that's for sure. So look at the Dallas Jackals there. But yeah, a couple guys to look at your waiver wire there, and definitely got to make those moves to kind of shore up that lineup heading into the 3rd week of the Fantasy MLR season. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap up the show here with a preview of what's to come here in week 3. We did pretty good on our
Well, one
predictions
guy's
here.
doing really well here.
Oh, okay, come on. We're all doing pretty solid. We're all above 500 if that is the landmark there. But hey, we've all been taking part of Rangers picks there.
Yeah.
John Payne setting us up and getting some people involved there in the fantasy MLR community, which has been a lot of fun. But hey, I started 9-3 after 2 weeks. Maddie, you're in the lead here, 10-2, which is pretty solid. And then Vandy,
What
you're
I do.
8-4. So all of us doing pretty solid, So
Take
let's
that.
see if we can continue that run here. It starts off the weekend. We got 5 matchups all on Saturday, all
Jeez,
spread
what
out
the
by
heck?
around 2, ranging from 1 to 4 hours here. But it starts off at 2 p.m. Eastern. New England Free Jacks taking on the NOLA Gold. This one should be an interesting one, but I do have a feeling here that the New England Free Jacks are going to be hunting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
Bounce back game.
yeah, I think they're due for one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll be wondering, is Ed Fido back? Because that is a crazy NOLA to gold team when you look at it with Ed Fido back. So,
Yep.
It'll be interesting. I think New England Free Jack. I mean, we saw them get off to this slow start last year. Will that continue to happen until the Rumaland's back? What does that look like? With that being said, I'm going NOLA Gold.
What? NOLA Gold? Okay, all right, Vandy, who you got?
Damn. I didn't expect that to be for a loop.
Yeah.
Well, we had 20.
up?
We had a
What
big
up?
start by NOLA, and then pretty bad second half. New England played a hell of a game. Barely lost Old Glory. That's a tough one. You know what? I gotta go Free Jacks. I gotta go
All
Free
right.
Jacks.
And I'm going Free
My
Jacks.
heart says NOLA. though, but-
I threw you for a loop.
yeah,
there,
my
man.
brain is like, I was thinking NOLA, and then when you said, I'm like, damn. If you guys both went
Free Jacks.
Free Jacks, I was going NOLA for sure.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going Free Jacks in this one. Maddie,
I'm
all right.
more loyal to NOLA than Fitzy is to LGDC.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you feeling that? Maybe you just needed to delay your NOLA Gold prediction from last year to this year.
Yeah, you were big
I mean,
on 'em.
Maybe we'll see. I just think that I think that if NOLA's going to get New England, it's going to be in the first 3 games this season. It's going to be the start of the season where New England Free Jacks are in this kind of slump that we've seen in the past. So I think this is the time for NOLA.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the second match of the Saturday. Old Glory DC at home against the Chicago Hounds, 4 p.m.
easy.
Eastern time. This is going to be interesting. I think the storyline is what Old Glory DC team is going to show up this week. We've seen it, the ups and downs last year. We saw how they performed in week 1. We saw how that changed into week 2. I know we're running on a high here with this Old Glory DC team, but I will caution people is that we've seen this before. Maybe not to the extent of upsetting the 2023 champions, which is a positive sign for DC, but we have seen this kind of roller coaster ride with this Old Glory team before. I will temper confidence and expectations, but again, they're taking on a struggling Chicago Hounds team that I don't have any optimism for.
I was just about to say, one side might be a roller coaster, but the other one's just a decline.
Yeah,
it is a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Is what that is. And look, Chicago needs to figure stuff out. They're not going to figure out in 1 week. Old Glory DC is coming off a high. I'm going Old Glory DC.
Yeah,
That's
so
an
am I.
easy pick for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going Chicago Hounds.
What the heck?
Really?
Yeah, I gotta go Chicago just because that's gonna basically dictate if I'm gonna get a fantasy MLR win this week. And I can't go in 3.
Oh, I got to go Old
I can't.
Glory.
All right. So
Yeah,
Vandy and
that's a
Maddie,
tough
Old
one, right?
Glory. But we'll see. We'll see whether or not the Chicago Hounds can bounce back here. All right, third match of the Saturday: Houston SaberCats taking on the Miami
Easy.
Sharks. This one, I think for me is a pretty easy choice here. Houston SaberCats looking real good. Miami Sharks again have the symptom of the yellow card there going forward. Overall thoughts on this matchup, guys, heading into this one.
Yeah, I think Miami Sharks are still pretty messy. I don't think they'll figure it out. Similar to Chicago, they're not going to figure it out this fast. Maybe later in the season, but for now, Houston is on a roll. They're going to keep it going. I mean, they're going to absolutely beat Miami up in the forward pack and in the center position.
Yeah.
That's where the battle's going to be won. Also, look out for Davey Kutzer.
I was just about
lots
to
of
say.
penalties. Lots of penalties here.
I can tell you my pick's easy, but I'm picking Davey Kotzer for my weekly challenge, man.
That's what's up.
All right. Well, I mean, that's bodes well. So if we just get the Chicago Hounds to play well, a big Davey Kotzer game, it sounds like Supreme Commissioner Yee should be winning this week.
Relax,
at least in my eyes.
Yeah, you got a long way to go.
Yeah, I do have a long way to go. All right, Utah Warriors taking on the Seattle Seawolves here in the
Vandy,
fourth
where you going,
match
buddy?
of the
Where you going,
Saturday.
Vandy?
This is a tough one, I think, for Vandy. Easy one for you and I, Maddie. I think.
Easy for me.
Utah, they had
After last week,
points.
After last week, I gotta go
week.
Seattle.
No, you can't. We're not letting you.
Oh, you stink.
You know what?
You're just as bad as Fitzy.
No. Being a fan is also knowing your limits, okay?
Okay.
And not getting
staying
overexcited. And I think it'd be foolish.
What a joke.
I'd be
What a
foolish
joke. You're
to
probably
take Seattle. We're going Utah, baby. Let's go.
All right. He throws for a
This is
loop.
how I
He
lose
convinced
these
them.
weekly pick'ems, man.
Yeah, whatever.
That's true.
You
Well,
can-
I'm going to-
Whatever.
I'm
Dude,
going
Ryan's
Seattle
only
this one.
beating me because of my love for Utah.
Yeah.
That is true.
Well,
It is
well,
true.
Seattle, I mean, they're a wagon. Their offense
They
is
are a wagon.
absolutely their offense is looking so good.
I don't expect much, but
Yeah, Seattle.
Caleb McAdee, game coming. Here we go. He's coming alive. Utah wins by 2 points.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, please, Tony Pulu start this week. That's what I'm hoping for. Big game for Tony Pulu this week. He's definitely not in the starting lineup this week. It's gonna be ridiculous. Mac Mason, I think, is gonna feast in this one once again. Lots of kicks in this one.
What are you talking
all right.
about?
Last
Joel Hodgson.
Saturday matchup, San Diego Legion taking on. I'm actually be big on Joel Hodgson because I think the Seattle defense will hold them up and they'll have to start kicking points. And I think
I got to get inside the half first.
Hodgson, that's true. All right, San Diego
McAdee.
Legion taking on RFC Los Angeles in the Battle of the West Coast there in California, 10
Hopefully it
p.m.
is a
Eastern
battle.
time. Yeah, hopefully. But again, this one might be closer on paper. I think there's positives from this RFC side. I did call it out last week that I thought the Dallas Jackals San Diego Legion matchup was going to be closer. It ended up being a close one. This one, I don't know if we're going to see the same there. I think RFC Los Angeles, like Matt mentioned earlier in the show, still trying to figure things out. I'm going San Diego in this one. But from a fantasy perspective, I just need some showing from some of these San Diego guys. All of them have been mediocre. Thomas Awake, I know we mentioned Nanu, but again, nothing spectacular as of yet. I just need someone to show up for the San Diego Legion side from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. But yeah, I think San Diego's they just look a lot better. Everything looks cleaner. Their defense looks really good. I think when they had the opportunity to slow LA down, I think they will slow LA down, and San Diego's going to take the dub here.
All right, what do you think, Vandy?
I kind of
What are you
like
doing?
RFCLA in the sense that, you know what, they had a pretty good week last week. If you put the two tries that got stolen from them back on the board,
You can't put cheating tries back on the
if
board.
you're not cheating, you're trying. But I think it's the Legion.
Hey, you think random side note? You think Cofield's at home playing back at a field that's just surrounded by a track rather than stands?
I
Yeah, I
think
can
that was
see
one.
it.
I
I felt like you'd be more at home on my roster, but
I think this was one of those
Whatever,
things
that was
on
your
his
fault.
It was my fault.
signing
Third
demands.
drive.
It has to make him feel as much as he's in Hoboken on a high school field, right?
Yeah.
All right, last matchup to wrap up the Seoul matchup on Sunday. Anthem Rugby Carolina taking on Dallas Jackals at home, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I am playing again all my Dallas Jackals players as much as I can. I think Ronan Foley is going to feast. I think who's your pickup of the week, Matt, for the fly half?
Oscar
Isaac-
Collar.
or
Vaughn Isaacs.
Vaughn
Yeah,
Isaacs.
Vaughn Isaacs is going to feast.
Yes, he
gonna
will.
I
feast
think
in this
though.
one.
I think a guy's that's going to feast is DeWalt Coetzee. Every set piece that goes against Anthem dominates.
Yes.
Pick up the set piece. Like if you want to pick up a set piece this week, you need a set piece. Dallas Jackals are the team because Anthem literally cannot do anything.
Like I have the Chicago Hounds set piece defense this week. I think I'm gonna go in on the Dallas Jackals and try to pick those guys up. Like I have no faith in there.
There we go.
I'm picking Dallas Jackals in this one. I think
I'm picking Dallas.
They look good last week, man.
They look good.
Yeah, they look very good.
All right. Well, we got a little bit of a mix-up this week, more so than we had last week. I think the sole different pick last week was Vandy going Utah. This week, hey, we got some of us picking NOLA, some of us picking.
Wait, you guys didn't pick
Chicago.
Utah last week?
No, we both picked Chicago.
Fools.
Yeah, I will. We'll leave it at that. But nonetheless, Vandy speaking with your Utah boys against Seattle should be an interesting one. A lot of fun matchups. Another busy week. Six matches. 5 of them on Saturday. Gonna be an interesting week as the fantasy MLR season trudges on. Vandy 2-0. Maddie, 1-1. Myself,
Hoping to keep
0-2.
that going here,
We'll
boys.
see whether or not we can bounce back here or keep it going.
Who do I got this week?
Yeah, it's gonna be. A good
I
week
got
this week.
Steven. First part of our bet happens this week. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
Let's go, Van.
Couple housekeeping things as we wrap up the show. Again, take part in our weekly challenge. If you aren't already, sign up on our website. The link to do that is down below in the description. Make sure you're following us at the Fantasy Ruckers on all the social media channels. Join our Discord community. Been a lot of fun talking game day, talking build up, everything in there. Give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We absolutely love it. We appreciate the support in helping Fantasy MLR become a reality in the league. And then last thing here, Vandy's here to stay. We've signed him on for another season. Again, we're returning to Tuesday.
This guy's expensive.
Hey,
too.
listen here to the fans. I never win anywhere.
Expensive.
These guys switch days on me. They set me up for failure.
Expensive.
They set me up for failure.
He was
They would do
he was
shows
holding out.
and
He
not
was
tell me
holding
about
out. He was holding out because the guy, we weren't paying him enough.
Yep.
This guy expensive
verify.
celebrity.
When these
over here.
cameras turn off, I am straight up bullied by these two. It's ridiculous.
All right. Well, hey, Vandy's back, returning to Tuesday mornings. Podcast release, so make sure you set your timer, subscribe there on the podcast to get that automatic download. Give us a rating, do all that good stuff.
I'll give you a
do
rating,
Appreciate
already.
it. And again, we absolutely love all the support that we've been getting. from
-1.
Fantasy MLR. And hey, come on now. You're part of this team now. You can't be. We signed you on for another season. You can't be saying -1. You got to be giving us 5.
Oh, well, you know what? I haven't got the wired money yet, so
Yeah, fair enough. Make sure to do that. All right. Well, hey, for Devin Vandy Vanderpool, for Matt Yee, I'm Ryan Yee, and we'll be back next week with another edition of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Enjoy week 3.
Hey, there ain't nothing supreme about it.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.